policy in relation to the private sector. I've heard people who were Labour ministers at the time explain what they see the differences as being, as to why it's different in the private sector. I think the main reason they would see it's different is that you can move if you're in the private sector, whereas in reality, in the social sector, the way that it's explained is that you get allocated a house. You don't have a choice. It's not that if you get a 3-bedroom house and you don't want it, that a 1-bedroom house is going to be made available to you, because that's not the reality of things. The part of the world that I represent, we still have a great deal of social housing. It's council housing. There's no stock transfer in North Ayrshire, but there's a complete mismatch between the kinds of houses that we have that are available and what people need. And basically, we have practically no 1-bedroom properties, we've got 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom properties, and we've actually got very, very few 4- and 5-bedroom properties as well, which we're not getting enough 4- and 5-bedroom properties for big families. So the argument is that the social sector and private sector are different, because in reality you probably can move if you're in the private sector. That's what people like Anne Maguire, etc. Argue. In terms of, I didn't hear Helen Goodman's comment, but I mean, Ignal Band, as I understand it, has said that we would not, we wouldn't keep the bedroom tax. So that, that's the official position at the moment. What I would say is that councils are quite a major lobby in the Labour Party, and I think both councillors and those involved in housing associations, and of course a lot of councillors now are involved in housing associations, because you usually have a councillor on the board, because so many councils no longer have housing that's social housing that they actually own themselves. And I think those organisations are going to find the bedroom tax so difficult, because there's no question about it. A lot of people simply are not going to be able to make up the shortfall, and therefore either they're going to end, individuals are going to end up with big rent arrears, and or people are going to get evicted. I mean, that's the reality of what the bedroom tax is going to mean, and that is going to have a big impact in terms of councils themselves. So what I would say is I suspect Labour councillors are going to be quite a big lobby on this one, and I suspect they will not be very sympathetic at all to the idea that we don't do something to address those problems, because it's going to cause councils and housing associations massive problems financially. If this, as and when this policy really begins to bite, and my view is that the only way they're going to be able to respond is to put rents up. I just can't see how there's going to be another response other than that. So I think we're just at the beginning of quite a long process in terms of this particular policy. I'm pleased to say that my understanding is that Labour's looking very, very sympathetically on rent regulation in England. I don't know quite where we are in that in terms of whether that's been announced or where we are in terms of that process. But up until a few months ago, that's not something I could have said. But I think this debate has meant that there does seem to be some movement in the right direction on that issue, and I very much hope that that's something that turns into reality, and that we have commitments in the next manifesto. In terms of the People's Assembly, I was at the press launch of the People's Assembly, and I very much hope that it goes forward, involving as many different people from as many different backgrounds as possible. We've had a lot of these kinds of initiatives before. I don't know whether this one's going to be more successful than the others, but what I would say is that we do need to find a way of uniting people and of bringing people together and of giving people a voice, and actually encouraging more people to get involved. Because one of the problems is, it's lovely to see so many people here today, but frankly, it's not as if everywhere we go, people are up in arms with their placards and turning out and putting pressure on. It's not the case that everywhere a Tory MP goes, they're meeting hostile groups that are lobbying them about how their communities are being affected by the cuts. And we need to actually find a way not just of uniting who's already involved in the campaigns, but actually making it possible that far more people get involved, because frankly that's the only way that we're going to get anywhere. We need to find ways of getting young people involved in these issues. There's 2 million people involved who were involved in the 1980s, and we need to find a way of bringing new generations in that haven't been involved in political activity before, and I don't think we're there with that, and I hope that the People's Assembly is part of that process in terms of getting lots of new layers of people involved, because frankly that's the only way we're really going to make a dent. And that's in Labour's interest as well, because irrespective of the exact detail of what's in the manifesto when the election comes, unless we have a strong enough anti-Tory alliance out there, we're going to end up in a situation where we may not have a government that's significantly different than the one that we've got at the moment, irrespective of the exact numbers that there are in the House of Parliament. And my view is that it's people's pressure that's going to deliver that, and our movement's got a huge role to play in putting that pressure on.